They thought they could buy a murder, but they bought a revolution instead. In April 2025, a single moment could have changed Burkina Faso's fate. A bodyguard stood inches from Captain Ibrahim Traoré, offered $5 million to pull the trigger. He refused and exposed the plot. But Traoré didn't just survive. He rewrote the rules of power. The lockdown doctrine, a ruthless security overhaul. Traoré's response wasn't panic, it was precision. Insiders call it the lockdown doctrine, a silent, sweeping transformation of Burkina Faso's security apparatus. The failed assassination attempt became Captain Ibrahim Traoré's crucible. His response wasn't merely defensive, it was architectural, reconstructing Burkina Faso's power structure from the ground up. At its core lies the Presidential Guard, no longer an honorific detail, but a meticulously engineered shield. Entire units were dissolved and rebuilt from obscure military branches, each recruit vetted beyond standard protocols, their school records examined, tribal affiliations mapped, foreign contacts scrutinized. The purge extended to foreign consultants, quietly excised like compromised nodes from a fragile network. This physical security forms just one layer. Burkina Faso now wages a silent war on information itself. Encrypted communication systems have replaced vulnerable channels, while sensitive zones became phone-free territories. The resurrection of the Office of Internal Counterintelligence marked a paradigm shift, no longer just monitoring external threats, but conducting political tomography of the regime's own organs. Every officer, every provincial commander now exists on a loyalty matrix where ideological deviations trigger automatic sidelining. Traoré's masterstroke lies in the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP. What began as rural militias against jihadists has metastasized into the regime's immune system. Young, impoverished, and fanatically loyal fighters now embedded within traditional military structures. Their presence creates constant friction, a living reminder that every soldier is being watched. Complementing this human network is a digital dragnet. The National Registration Biometric Program, ostensibly for civic administration, has birthed Africa's most sophisticated tracking system. High-value targets, whether disgraced officers or suspicious diplomats, now move through Ouagadougou as glowing dots on security monitors, their every transaction, contact, and movement pattern algorithmically assessed for threat potential. The geopolitical calculus of survival. These drastic measures emerge from brutal necessity. Burkina Faso exists in a state of perpetual siege, 40% territory ceded to insurgents, French neocolonialism in retreat but still poisoning the soil, regional alliances fracturing daily. The 4 coup attempts against Traoré weren't isolated incidents but symptoms of a system in violent flux. His security architecture, while formidable, faces existential pressures. The VDP's loyalty depends on continued patronage. Their unpaid fighters may yet become tomorrow's rebels. Biometric systems crumble with electricity grids. And beyond the borders, foreign powers now recognize that direct confrontation is futile. Instead, they'll weaponize economic collapse, information warfare, and the slow suffocation of sanctions. Traoré has won the immediate battle, but the war follows different rules. His regime's resilience will ultimately depend not on surveillance or militias, but on delivering what no Burkinabe leader has in decades: tangible security and prosperity. The walls are high, but the desert beyond is infinite. They underestimated Captain Ibrahim Traoré. When a $5 million bribe was offered to kill him, the plot was exposed. Arrests were made, and Traoré delivered a chilling warning to the nation. Not all enemies come with guns and jihadist slogans. Some wear military stars and speak perfect French. But the danger didn't end there. The second and third coup attempts were more insidious. Mid-level officers at a strategic base near Ouagadougou, quietly rallying dissent over unpaid salaries and Traoré's aggressive reforms. The fourth plot, most alarming of all, came from within the elite National Gendarmerie itself. Each betrayal forced Traoré to adapt. His enemies weren't just armed militants. They carried briefcases, held microphones, and moved through diplomatic circles. Western aid workers asked suspicious questions. Old political families tested the waters. This wasn't paranoia, it was survival. Outside the capital, the crisis deepened. Over half of Burkina Faso's territory is now controlled by insurgents. In these lawless zones, warlords replaced the state, imposing taxes and executions. Every jihadist victory emboldened plotters at home, while foreign powers, eyeing the country's gold and uranium, searched for weak points. The $5 million assassination attempt wasn't random. It was a calculated move by someone who knew exactly when, where, and who to bribe. Traoré's response? A total security reset. He restructured his guard, turned civilian militias into loyal enforcers, and made silence as suspect as rebellion. Because in Burkina Faso, coups don't start with gunfire. They begin with the man holding the keys. The question remains, who paid for the bullet? Was it a disgraced general, a foreign intelligence agency, or a shadowy network protecting old colonial interests? One thing is certain, whoever placed that $5 million bet knew Traoré's death wouldn't just change Burkina Faso, it would reshape the entire Sahel. Like, share if you believe Africa's untold power struggles demand more attention. Subscribe for real stories of leadership, betrayal and resistance. Comment below, who do you think wanted Traoré dead and why? The $5 million hit. Who really wanted Traoré dead? When Captain Ibrahim Traoré seized power, he didn't just change Burkina Faso's government, he shattered an entire system of privilege. Overnight, the old guard, generals accustomed to French-backed perks, political dynasties feeding off foreign aid, and elites profiting from exploitative mining deals, found themselves cut off. Traoré's agenda was clear: nationalize key assets, expel predatory NGOs, and reject neo-colonial influence. For those who had spent decades benefiting from Burkina Faso's subservience, his rise wasn't just inconvenient, it was an existential threat. But the conspiracy against him likely stretches far beyond disgruntled elites. In the streets of Ouagadougou, whispers point to a familiar suspect. La France is derrière ça. France is behind it. Though unproven, the suspicion isn't baseless. Since Traoré took charge, France's once dominant grip on the Sahel has crumbled. Military bases shuttered, diplomats expelled, and lucrative contracts voided. His calls for true decolonization weren't just rhetoric, they were a direct challenge to centuries of exploitation. For a former colonial power watching its influence evaporate while Russian partnerships grow, the temptation to act covertly would be strong. Yet France isn't the only player with motive. The US, though less overt, has seen its counter-terrorism strategy upended by Traoré's rejection of Western troops. Russia, meanwhile, benefits from his survival, gaining a foothold in Africa's anti-imperialist way. But the most dangerous threat may be stateless, a shadow alliance of exiled generals, hired soldiers and mining syndicates for whom Traoré's sovereignty agenda is terrible for business. Who placed that $5 million bounty? The answer lies in the fractures of a region where power, resources and revenge intersect. One thing is certain, this wasn't just an attempt to kill a leader, it was an effort to murder a revolution. Like if you believe Africa's future shouldn't be decided in foreign capitals. Subscribe for unfiltered truths about power, betrayal and resistance. Comment below, who do you think ordered the hit and why? The failed $5 million assassination attempt against Captain Ibrahim Traoré may have strengthened his position, but it also exposed the dangerous game he's playing. Behind the reinforced security, the hand-picked bodyguards, the digital surveillance, the restructured military, lurks an even greater threat: time itself. Every day Traoré stays in power, he creates new enemies, while old ones grow more desperate. The disgruntled officers passed over for promotion, the unpaid militias fighting on the front lines, the foreign powers waiting in the wings. They don't need another expensive plot when economic pressure and eroding public support might do the job for them. Traoré's Russia-backed defiance of Western influence has made him a hero to many, but revolutions live or die on results. With insurgents still controlling vast territories and the economy struggling, even his most loyal supporters may eventually ask, at what cost? The chilling truth is that in Burkina Faso's volatile political landscape, today's unshakable leader can become tomorrow's cautionary tale. Traoré has survived the first assassination attempt, but the real test will be whether he can outlast the silent wars, the economic sabotage, the waning morale, the whispered conspiracies that have toppled so many before him. His security apparatus may be stronger than ever, but history shows that in the Sahel, no fortress is impregnable forever. The question isn't if Traoré's enemies will strike again, but when, and whether his revolution can withstand the slow erosion of doubt that comes when promises collide with the hard realities of governing a nation at war with itself.